Hello guys, a warm welcome to one and all, and again welcome to the sessions of web technologies. And we have been talking about web technology and what is the basics of web technology yesterday and day before yesterday's sessions. And what we are trying to achieve in the today's session is we need to find out what is the web technology and what we have done in the last session. That's I have given you a clear idea about what is desktop application, what is web application, what are the differences of web and desktop, and also I was explaining you about what is server and what is client and how this communication will be happened of client and server. These are the few factors which we have discussed in the earlier sessions, and today we are been focusing on very important topic to build your applications. Okay, so today I am talking about the web technology, the basic web technology, something called HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Nothing but our sessions from next day onwards, our sessions is all about HTML, CSS and JavaScript, all these things. Alright, I am very clear what I am trying to talk about. Okay, so now let us understand how you called as HTML, what is the importance of HTML, what is the uses of HTML. Okay, so if you just take a web technology application, because what I'm trying to tell you right now is web technology, there are a few various technologies in the market which can build a different kind of web applications. If you talk about something called HTML and CSS, that is also you can build an application. If for example if you take PHP also, you can build a web application. If you take Java, alright, so for example you have something called JSP, nothing but one of the framework in Java which is also used to build your applications called web. For example, if you take about .NET, Microsoft .NET, so that is also have one of the web technology. You can also build some kind of web applications on it, that is you can say as ASP.NET. It is also one of the framework in .NET, as a part of .NET framework. It's used to build web applications, right? So these are the various technologies in the market which is used to work with applications. Alright, so what is the major intention about this? What is the differences between if I learn HTML and CSS and after that I am going to learn Java? What is the major differences between your HTML and Java? First we will find out that, or HTML, CSS with .NET or PHP or anything, you can take anything. You, for example, if you go for Python, you have something called Django. This is also one of the framework, one of the web framework of Python which is used to build web applications on it. Okay, before I get started with this, first let us understand the differences between your HTML. If you build an application with HTML along with if you build the same application with Java, what is going to happen? For example, if you take an example of HTML with CSS, okay, this is you cannot develop an applications of dynamic pages. Okay, so for example, if you just look at here, you'll understand the basic about what you can achieve here. All right. So for example, if I say website, all right. So what I can say website here is, for example, website. What is the meaning of website? We have let's say collection of different web pages we have. Okay, so collection of web pages in the sense we have for example, let's say example as Facebook, or you can say Twitter, or you can say Gmail. Alright, so you may take any web application. There are you cannot count the web application in the market now. Okay, you have a number of websites or number of websites in the market, right? All these websites internally contains a collection of web pages, nothing but it is contains a different web pages here. Okay, what is this web pages all about? For example, if I say first I have some page called a login page. Okay, if I take an example as Facebook, so let us understand what is the Facebook application does contains here, right? You have something first login page. If you click on that, you will have a registration page. Alright, you have something called home page. Alright, you have something called about us page, about the build of application, and for example, if you take something called update your profile. Alright, so sometime you may update your mobile number. Alright, sometime you may update your profile pic, or you may share some videos. Okay, so if you just look at here, there are the different kind of web pages we have here, right? If I combine all together, then only I can say this is an application of web, nothing but that is I can call it as website. So few people will say that visit the website called www.facebook.com. What is the website? Is internally contains your web page. Basically you contain a different kind of web pages here. All right, so the web pages are like login page, registration page, home page and all. Okay, our intention is also pretty much clear that my intention is pretty much clear that after end of this sessions, you will be in a position to build a website, something like Facebook or Twitter or whatever you name it. So I'll give you some basic knowledge about to building an application, and also I will show you how to build an website with this. Okay, and I'll give you some of very important things. For example, if you look at here, if I want to build an application, these are the common factors in every website. These are the few common factors will be there. Let's say login page will be there, registration page will be there, you have a home page, you have a about us page, you have update profile, nothing but there are the few concepts I'll explain you in detail. With that you can build your own website also. Okay, so now let's concentrate on how this web application is all about. Okay, now let's say you have a website. This is internally is about a set of different kind of web pages. If you just say this is your entire my website is correct. So with this website you have a couple of pages internally in this. Let's say you have a page 1, you have a page 2, right? You have a page 3, you have a page 4, right? You have a page 5 and you have a page 6. All these are different pages will be combined here. Let's say login page, you say login page, you say registration page, or you say something. All right, so all together will be contain this. Now if I say what is a web pages, correct, you understand what is the mean of website, but what is a web page here is, okay, web page is normal plain text, some kind of plain text which have some information. Okay, right. So for example, if you just look at here, how you guys know that it is a login page, correct? So there are a specific information which is given on that page, so that you can understand that that particular page is used for login. Is it correct? Yes, right. So if I go for some registration page, how a user knows that in registration page there are some information of that web page is giving you clear idea that it is some kind of page, we can call it as a login page or registration page, whatever you name it. Am I very clear? So that nothing but the first one is you have a website. Internally website contains number of web pages, and this web page is all about to have this kind of things, right? So if I say what is this website is internally contains, web pages internally it contains some kind of information is. Now what I need to know is how you can build this web pages and what are the types of web pages we have. Correct. So the type of web pages are, the first one is a static web pages. Please do remember this, it's pretty much important guys. One is static web page, right, and second one is a dynamic website or dynamic web page. All right, please guys, you need to remember these two words, pretty much important, because these are the words, these are the important terminology will be used in developments of website. You need to decide as a developer, you need to decide what if you developing a web page, you need to decide whether it is static page or whether it is dynamic page, right? Am I very clear? Let's understand here what is the static page. Okay, now your web page is basically you can divide into two parts. One is the first part is static pages, all right. Second one is dynamic pages, right. What is this static page is all about? What is the dynamic page is all about? Okay, static page. Static page in the sense the name itself is telling you static, nothing but does not change. Alright, so it does not change the content of web page. For example, the moment when you complete your application, if you host it on any web servers, the content of web page will never change. Am I very clear? I am telling you once again, if you complete any website, if you design some such kind of pages, if you deploy that pages into a web server, that content will never change unless or until as a developer again you need to modify that. Am I very clear? So what are the examples for this? I will tell you what is the best example is. You may visit the different websites, right? You may visit different websites. In that you have something called about us page. You may have something called contact us page. Correct? Correct? So these are the pages of any website people used to build with static, nothing but they will not use the terminology of dynamic here, because this content of that website, nothing but about the company will never change, the company address also will never change anytime. Correct? So that's the reason about us and contact us is the two pages of any website will never change, so that people as a developers like you, they can develop the applications using static. They may use something called static version. Otherwise, I will tell you one of the best example. For example, you want to write some kind of history about a great Abdul Kalam. Alright. So if you want to write about that sir, 100% right now the current generation, also I am writing some information about Abdul Kalam, and I do the same thing as whatever the achievements about that great personality, I do the same thing, right? So for example, down the line after 100 years also, if some person want to write about the greatness or the great personalities like Abdul Kalam, then obviously he will also write the same thing. Correct? Right? So I want to put it in a web pages, I want to put that in a web page. Correct? So whenever you want to put this into a web page, compulsory right now whatever I am writing, it is also same, the content will never change, and after 100 years down the line, 100 years also, the content will never change anytime. These also kind of pages people used to develop with a static version, nothing but the content will never change anytime, right? The best example you can see Wikipedia, right? You may have a wiki for every word, right? So if you go for wiki, the wiki content is similar, the wiki content is never change, right? If they add, it would be a new version, but it is not the existing version will be updated all the time. Correct? So that's a basic example of static web pages. Hope you understand. Again, I am repeating about static pages. Please you concentrate. First thing is, your pages of website is categorized into two parts. The first category is static pages. I mean to say that the pages of any application, the content of a particular page which never change, in the sense the moment when you deploy it into a web server, then unless or until if you remove from the web server, it will never change, the content will be as it is, right? The best examples of static pages are, you may visit any pages or any websites like about us page or contact us page of every website or any website you can consider, all these pages the developers like you which takes static design or static content, right? So otherwise you can see, go for some kind of history related things, you can go for Wikipedia, right? So that's one of the best example for your static pages, nothing but that content of that pages will never change, right? So how to fit the content, that we'll learn in the later days. But what I want to do is, first you need to understand where is exactly the information, where exactly you can build your skills, right? So that is one thing you need to understand here. Am I very clear now? So hope everyone understand what is the meaning of static pages. Correct? So let's go for right now. Second version is dynamic pages. What is this dynamic pages? Dynamic pages in the sense the content of the page, right, which automatically changes every time, maybe sometime minute, sometimes second, sometime maybe hours time, nothing but you will not have any particular thing which is constant here, correct? So best example is when you log in into any websites, like if you go for Facebook, if you go for Twitter, or if you go for some other website, if you enter the username and password into your login box, automatically when you click submit button, automatically your browser start rendering your data to the server side. This is something which we can call it as dynamic action, right? I'm telling you once again, if you go, let's say best example what you can consider is Facebook login page or Twitter login page or something other login pages, correct? So the moment when you try to enter the username and a password, then you will click on a submit button, right? The moment when you click on submit button, your browser start browsing the data, the browser start buffering for a few seconds sometime, right? So that time what will happen is this content of a page will be deployed into a server, right? At the time you required compulsory the page has to be developed from dynamic sites or dynamic pages, correct? So these are the few things, nothing but best examples or any login page, any registration page, the moment automatically when you submit the data it reaches to the server side, then all this comes under the process of a dynamic content. Am I very clear? So let's see, the best examples are, you can say any login page, alright. So these are the second part, right? Am I very clear now? So how do I develop a page something called static? How do I develop a page something called dynamic, correct? So you understand right now the basics about what is static and what is dynamic now. Now what you need to know is how do I build this page and how do I build this page, right? If someone wants to develop a page like static, you can use the basic web technology called HTML. This is what I am trying to talk about. This is what my agenda right now in this current sessions. Nothing but I want you to use HTML to build a website which is of static pages, nothing but the content of the page which never changes, right? In this HTML additionally will add a CSS, nothing but I'll tell you what is the use of CSS, and also additionally add something called a JavaScript. Alright, JavaScript is not a Java, remember that JavaScript is not Java, JavaScript it is totally different and Java is totally different. Please do remember this, don't confuse these words all the time. Someone is asking you what is JavaScript and Java, Java is different and JavaScript is different. I'll let you know the the word meaning in the later videos now. Alright, if you go for dynamic, for example I want to build a website something called dynamic action, alright, so then I have to go for Java or else I have to go for .NET or I have to go for PHP, I need to go for sometime Python, Django or different frameworks, okay. So let's say one of the frameworks in Java, that is something called JSP, Java Server Page, right. In .NET we have some technology called ASP.NET, it is also one of the server side technology, Active Server Page, alright. So JSP stands for Java Server Page and ASP.NET stands for Active Server Page. Alright, so these are the terminologies which we can use to build a dynamic content test. Alright, understand? So hope you understand the meaning of what is static and also you need to understand what is a dynamic. We can also do some dynamic activity in JavaScript with HTML, CSS also, but it's required some more time, you need to understand. But by default, by initially, at least you need to understand the capability that if I'm doing some kind of pages, what is this page is all about, how this pages is required, right? First thing is very clear now. Alright, now let me go to one more activity now. Alright, so I'll take one more activity, that there is one of the very important terminology in the web pages of static and dynamic, that is something called scripting, right? Right now what I am trying to talk about is the terminology called this one, correct? So first thing is, if I want to develop static page, I need to require HTML. If I additionally add CSS, I can enhance the richness of the website. And what is the use of this? Maybe a few people have a question mark that, let's see, if I can develop a website with HTML, but HTML is not looks that beautiful or that good, so I'll add a CSS to it so that I can develop a web page to it. But what is the use of JavaScript? Correct? Alright, first I'll clear you that doubt now first. After that we'll get into HTML and all these things. Alright, so please concentrate here for the next few minutes, guys. I do explain you about what is the importance of JavaScript in the web technology. As yesterday I am trying to discuss about one remote machine and one client machine here, right? They're the two things which we have every time in our web technology, correct? So for example, this is, we can call it as server machine, which is hosted in any part of the world, and the client can be accessed from any part of the world, okay, right? As I told you, client is always a browsers, not the users. All the time you need to remember this very important terminology. You may say Firefox, you may say Chrome, all this comes under your web technology, all this comes under your browser paths. What will happen is, whenever you want to access any website, what first thing you need to do is, you need to request to the specific server. After requesting accepted by the particular thing or particular server, then your server will be responded to your client in a similar way, same way. Alright, so that's the reason we have learned about some protocol yesterday session. Guys, if you are not sure about what is HTTP, I recommend you guys please go for yesterday's session. I was explaining you in detail about what is the use of the HTTP request. Okay, this is your request, alright, this is your response of HTTP. Alright, guys, if you are not clear about what is the meaning of this one, I recommend you guys please, what I can say, please visit your yesterday's part video, so that you can understand the importance of HTTP. Now, what is the importance of scripting in this web technology? What is the importance of this? Very important factor, correct? And where I'll use this JavaScript, and where I'll use the JSP, ASP.NET and all these things. Okay, right. First thing is, as soon as if I request to the specific web server, the web server which accept your request, after accepting the request, it is gonna generate you simple HTML document. Please do concentrate more. First thing is, I am requesting to a specific website or specific application called, maybe you can say Facebook or Twitter, whatever you name it. I am requesting to specific website. The moment when I request to the specific website, your server is going to accept you that request. First of all, after accepting your request, it is going to generate you a simple HTML doc on the server side. It is going to generate you some simple HTML doc. As soon as it is got generated this HTML doc, this document is going to render you on your browser. Nothing but if you open your browser interface, on the browser you can able to see that interface of that website, right? So this is what is going to happen here. But where I supposed to see this scripting is, correct? Correct? A scripting is a terminology which is used for validation purpose. Mostly, I can say it is used for validation purpose. Validation can be done in two ways. Either you can validate on client side, you can also validate on server side. Right? You can also validate on client, and you can also validate on server. If I want to validate on client, first what I need to do is I required some JavaScript knowledge. Same thing if I validate on a server side, I required some server side technology knowledge, something like JavaScript, JSP or PHP. Hope you understand the meaning of the words what I am trying to explain you. Alright. Right. So if I want to validate any web page, nothing but here this HTML doc is generated by the server and it is going to put it on your client machine, nothing but it is going to rendered on your client machine, right? If that validation of the, for example, I have a registration page, best example you can take it as one registration page, alright. So if you validate this page only on client side, let me take one more slide so it would be easy, alright. So in this is, let's assume that this is your browser, alright, this is your browser, and within this there is some simple HTML doc is got rendered. This is your registration page. Understand that this is simply your registration page, right? In registration page, what is basically happens, basically you have a different fields which is available here, alright. So you have a field 1 like this, you have a couple of fields in your I mean what I can call it as in your registration page. And after that, at the end of this registration page, you do have simple button called a submit button. Yes, you have a simple button called submit. The moment when you click on the submit button, your action is going to happen now, alright. So the action can be in two ways, right? If the action is going to done on the client machine, that is different activity. If the same thing is happened on server, that is again different activity. Okay, so I have registration page. I have given some fields here, something like username, password, email ID, mobile number, all different fields. Let's consider a couple of fields here, right? What will happen is, this is let's consider this is your email ID, right? This is your mobile number field, right? Two things, right? Whenever what I want to do is, instead of email ID, I'll enter the mobile number here, right? Instead of mobile number, I'll enter the email ID. Okay, so what here you understand here, there are the two things which you have to remember. One thing is, in place of email ID I am entering a mobile number, in place of mobile number I am entering email ID, correct? So what is going to happen now? If I click on submit button, whether this request is going to process to the server side or not, right? If it is processed, how? If not processed, how it is, right? Let's see, understand. If the validation, right now I am trying to validate my email ID and trying to validate my mobile number, right? So I am trying to validate these two fields only on my browser itself, only on my client itself. So then this validation comes under the process of client side validation. If you want to implement client side validation, you require JavaScript, nothing but you need to know the basic knowledge of JavaScript to implement the process of this part. Yes, am I very clear? So I'll give you a clear idea, nothing but as a developer, when you want to validate a certain page only on browser, only on client machine, right? Nothing but your request will not goes to the server side. Now nothing but even though when you click on a button called submit, this request is not going to process to the server side. It is validate only on client. If that requirement is met, nothing but whatever the conditions I have checked, that conditions has to be satisfied. If that conditions are satisfied, then only the request goes to the server side. Yes, am I very clear? That is a major thing, that's a major part you need to understand. If that validations is happening only on client machine, right, that client machine validation comes under client side scripting. Please do remember the word called client side scripting. What is the importance of this, right? If the validations are happening on a client machine, then you can call that application validation, call it as client side scripting. And if client side scripting is happen on browsers, what is the major advantage, right? The best important thing you need to remember is the server burden can decreases. Nothing but instead of 100 requests, your server which accept, unless or until if my conditions are not cleared by the specific user, then my request will not goes for the server side. Nothing but I can reduce the burden on server, and also I can reduce the time. Nothing but instead of going to the server and getting the response for server, maybe it takes 4 seconds time, but I'll take that request best only within the 2 seconds time. This is one of very important factor about client side scripting. When you want to do that client side validation as a developer, you need to understand about what is JavaScript is. JavaScript is one of the what I can call it as a scripting kind of language which is used to validate a page on the client side. Nothing but if you want to write a programming on the HTML document, if you want to write some kind of documentation, if you want to write some programming related to the HTML web page, then you need to understand, or then you need to write, or you need to understand about compulsory JavaScript concept is. Alright, same thing, if this validation is happened on server side, then that application validation called as server side scripting, that is our next agenda. Nothing but in the next coming thing we will learn about what is the server side technology and how you can work with server side technologies, something like Java with a JSP or .NET, ASP.NET. All these things comes under the next version of your next technology, next version of your technologies, right? Am I very clear now? So hope everyone is very clear about the words what I am trying to display on your screen, correct? So hope everyone is understand about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and also you understand about this. Okay, what we are learning in this now, we are learning in this particular sessions, we are learning about HTML, CSS and JavaScript. JavaScript is one of the web programming. Okay, so you can say, or you can also say that it is